What's up, D Nice? Brother Jay, what's happening? I mean, Brother Williams, what's happening? About to get going. In just a minute. What's good? Hopefully, maybe we can get hopefully we'll get us about a couple more people in here. If not, we're gonna get going. This is last minute impromptu, which is not what I normally do, but I figured if I don't do it now, who knows when I'll do it. So, can you hear me? If you can hear me, will you hit 1? Mic check, mic check. Can you hear me? Mic check. Is anybody there? Oh, okay. Bet. Appreciate you, Brother Williams. So, okay. Right on, D Nice. All right. So, the title is Astrologica de Coitus Manifestus. And that's just because, we know how things are going these days. So, I think you have to be cautious how you title things and so forth. It is, it's just the time we're in, It's all those things we read about. We are in them now. Very uncertain times, very uncertain times. So to me, it encourages creativity. We're forced to be creative, more creative maybe than ever before. Um, and constriction and restriction historically has seemed to be a bedfellow of creativity. You know, you squeeze something, things tend to change. New things tend to develop. So with that in mind, astrological day, Coitus, Manifestus. Coitus is just another word for sex. Okay? So the astrology of sexual manifestation is what we're going to discuss briefly. Before we get going, I'm learning from the other YouTubers. We're going to do little promotions. Just a reminder, I have these five handouts available on the website. You can buy them separately. It's just $5.99. And the principles in these are too much for me to explain, at least not here. But they will support what we're going to talk about here, because a lot of this is centered around fire. And when we talk about sex, we are talking about fire. Fire and its many different expressions. Okay. If you want to really be a astute scholar, you can get these 5 handouts plus my book, The Lies Behind the Ties, plus this, which is what we're going to talk about a little bit today. Scribe It, Say It, Sex It, Ultimate Guide to Conscious Manifestation, and this 2020 and the World to Come. What is the meaning of life? It's revisiting the meaning of life. These 2 you'll receive as PDF files. These you'll get physical copies in the mail. All right. This is all available as part of a bundle, and it's in the description below at mastersofthecosmos.com. You can also go there and get you a very in-depth, intelligible, intuitive birth chart reading. Have 2 types. Have a 360 reading and the basic birth chart reading. All right. So this is where it begins. I was studying Kabbalah, a book on Kabbalah, years ago, and it's this book. It's the Mystical Kabbalah, Dion Fortune. And some things I wasn't expecting popped out in this book. Okay. And she's talking about these 2 spheres on the tree of life in this section that I'm going to reference. She's talking about seven, victory. And 8, splendor. 7, victory, 8, splendor. Those are Netzik and Hod. Okay. Now, just for reference points, these 2 refer to the planets Mercury right here, Venus right here. Okay. Netzik and Hod. All right. And I want to read a little something. In the sphere of Hod are performed all manner of magical operations in which the intellect itself is brought to bear upon these tenuous and fleeting images to give them form and permanency. But in the sphere of Netzik, such operations do not take place to any great degree. All God forms in Netzik are worshipped by means of the arts. Okay, and just to clarify, Netzik is associated with planet Venus. Arts. Okay. Hod coincides with Mercury. Intellect. That's just one word to describe each, but it's not a holistic description. Nevertheless, all practical purposes, it is impossible to separate. For all practical purposes, it is impossible to separate the activities of Hod and Netzik, which are a functional pair, just as Gabor and Hesed make up the two aspects of metabolism, the catabolic and the anabolic. The functions of Netzik are implicit in Hod because Netzik emanates Hod. Okay? Now, this is where it gets kind of interesting. It is by means of dance and sound and color that Netzik angels are contracted and evoked. The worshipper of a god in the sphere of Netzik enters into communion with the object of his adoration by means of the arts. And in proportion as he is an artist, give me 1 second. And in the worshiper of a god in the sphere of Netzik enters in communion with the object of his adoration by means of the arts. And in proportion as he is an artist in some medium or other, and can therein represent his deity symbolically, will he be able to make the contact and draw the life into himself. All rites which have rhythm and movement and color in them are working in the sphere of Netzik. Now I want to say something to clarify. I ain't with this, worshiper of a god, and the evocation of angels. Well, we'll get to that later. We'll get to that. I just want to make sure, I want to clarify that when they say eat the fish and spit out the bones, because especially for people who have a greater affinity for rhythm and sound and movement and balance and art, which are all Venusian terms. This, to be clear, this is written from a group of people who are looking into something that is not natural to them. When this word rhythm comes up, that's a dead giveaway. This woman, Dion Fortune, the idea of rhythm is foreign to her. Let's just keep it real. Just in conceptually, rhythm is associated with original people. Okay, so I always keep that in mind when you're looking through these things, because they make it so overly scientific and complicated. And also they're doing it because they're trying to shroud things behind a whole bunch of words. When in essence, Venus is the balance, the harmonious order and balance that comes out of tick tock, which is something you and I don't have to think about. It's just natural. You don't have to think rhythm. It's natural, okay? But let's keep going. All rites which have rhythm and movement and color in them are working in the sphere of Netsic. Skip down. And in order to provide a basis of manifestation, etheric substance has to be provided by some form of sacrifice, even if it be only the burning of incense. Okay, I want to add in here. An incense, and this is a pen, but in essence, it's the same as an incense. It's a phallus. The burning of the incense is the sacrifice of the phallus. Okay? Sexual intercourse is the sacrifice of the phallus. At some point, the phallus must die. The son must die. Right? Okay. It is necessary to refer to it here because the significance of the rites of Netsic cannot be understood without a realization of the means whereby manifestation is effected and the God brought near to his worshippers. Okay, here's another something I highlighted. The sphere of Venus, with all that implies. Translated from the symbolic language of the Kabbalah into plain English, it means that we are concerned here with the function of polarity, which is a very great deal more than mere sex as polarity conceived. It is important to note in this respect that Venus, in her Greek form, Aphrodite, is not a fertility goddess at all, such as are Ceres and Persephone. She is the goddess of love. Okay, I'm going to skip to something else. Just giving some background stuff, okay? The Aphrodite cult was something very much more than the simple performance of an animal function. It was concerned with the subtle interaction of the life force between two factors, the curious flow and return, the stimulus and the reaction, which plays so important a part in the relations of the sexes, but extends far beyond the sphere of sex. The function of the hetera was to minister to the intellect of her clients as well as their appetites. Intellect, Mercury; appetites, Venus. She was a hostess as well as a mistress, and to her resorted the philosophers and poets to receive inspiration and sharpen their wits. For it was well realized that there was no greater inspiration to an intellectual man than the society of a vital and cultured woman. Okay. Let's skip down. The Greeks we have brought to a higher pitch of development than was ever known to the Greeks the art of stimulating desire with film and review and syncopation. But we have syncopation, music. These motherfuckers. But we have no knowledge for the far more important art of meeting the needs of the human soul for etheric and mental interchange of magnetism. And it is for this reason that our sex life, both physiologically and socially, is so unstable and unsatisfactory. That's a bar. We have no knowledge for the far more important art of meeting the needs of the human soul for etheric and mental interchange of magnetism. And it is for this reason that our sex life, both physiologically and socially, is so unstable and unsatisfactory. You always have to ask yourself, and you have to look at the date that these books are written. This copyright is 1930 something, 1935, original publishing. So when she's saying our sex life, you know, you take that for what it's worth, because everybody wasn't considered everybody. And she was not writing for the collective, okay? This one is a good one. We cannot understand sex aright unless we realize that it is one aspect of what the esotericist calls polarity, and that this is a principle that runs through the whole of creation and is, in fact, the basis of manifestation. This was where I really locked in. Polarity is the basis of manifestation, which explains how coitus or sex can be involved in manifestation. Something else I wanted to mention. But that's enough. That's enough for background. Okay. Let's just move on. And now, at the time, historical footprint now. First published in 1935. This is Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. First published 1937. Now, it has come out that he was a charlatan, right? Okay. But the thing about it is, even charlatans will give you some truth. You know what I mean? Because this is something, what was going on was these people are children of what's called the lost generation. The lost generation, and I've mentioned this book, you want to get this. Just a sidebar. Generations. This is an excellent book to give you an idea of the type of energetic footprint during certain periods in history. Okay, so both of these authors are producing something of this nature around the same time. And obviously, this guy, although he doesn't mention Kabbalah, obviously he's been exposed. He's been exposed to it. And, the workings of the astrological clock, the cosmic clock. I want to read a couple of things out here. When people mention this book, they rarely mention chapter 11, The Mystery of Sex Transmutation. Okay? Real quick, the emotion of sex has back of it the possibility of three constrictive potentialities. They are: 1, the perpetuation of mankind; 2, the maintenance of health. As a therapeutic agency, it has no equal. 3, the transformation of mediocrity into genius through transmutation. Wow. Sex desire is the most powerful of human desires. The word desire, just to be clear, the word desire is a Venusian word. Literally, Venus means desire. Okay? So as he's mentioning this word, this is Venus. Sex, desire, Venus is the most powerful human desires. When driven by this desire, men develop keenness of imagination, courage, willpower, persistence, and creative ability unknown to them at other times. Skipping down, the desire cannot and should not be submerged or eliminated, but it should be given an outlet through forms of expression. This is another key nugget here. If ask yourself this: out of the times you've had sex in your life, what percentage of those interactions had any intellectual underpinning to it? Meaning, sex is at its pure level for most of us, just all humans basically, is desire based. Okay? But when have you ever had sex with an intellectual underpinning to it? Because when he says this, it should be given an outlet through forms of expression. which enrich the body, mind, and spirit of man. This is now pulling in Mercury, because Mercury is intellect, perspective, consideration. It is um it is the mental jousting. Okay. The reason I said with her book about all the stuff about evoking gods, that bullshit, you can throw that. You don't, that's not necessary. That's not necessary. What's necessary is to intellectualize your imagination. See, the desire is the raw potential energy, right? But your imagination, we don't normally associate imagination with intellect, but it is. It is a form of intellect. Mercury allows what could just be pure childish imagination to now take a form. You're formulating, you're congealing it into a thought, your own thought form that you project, not that you randomly go and reach for and don't know what the hell you're going to get. You project, you infuse it, right? With your imagination. That is what this is hearkening to. If not given this form of outlet through transmutation, it will seek outlets through purely physical channels. The point is it more dangerous to not have an intellectual foundation to coitus or sex, or is it versus having some type of direction? What's more advantageous? You know, what is the purpose of it other than to fulfill an urge? That's a Martian word, urge. Other than to fulfill an urge and to reproduce life, what's the point of it? Is that it? So that's enough with that. That's the foundation. Okay. Now we're gonna keep. Brother William said phallus, plug, yoni, outlet, magical energy. Simple as that, brother. That's right. Let's look at the word sex. Y'all know I like to do the etymology, right? So I'm using this as a reference. I'm giving you all the, all the resources. Again, this sex from sec, SAK1, it means cut. And then it has another root, SUE, sway. It means personal relations, one's own, his, hers, its. Hence, a group as a unit. Associated with the Sanskrit, stradana, her own, a woman's property. Okay. Also here, sex, SAKS, where we get the Greek hex, associated with the word sacrifice. Sacrifice. Remember, we were reading in the book here, the mystical Kabbalah, the mention of sacrifice. Well, it is not just the sacrifice of the phallus; it is the sacrifice also of the unit. Again, the Sanskrit stradana, her own, the woman's property. It's the sacrifice of her property. What's the sacrifice? The sacrifice is that she allows it to be entered. The sacrifice that the man participates in is he allows himself to die. The woman allows herself to be entered. So she allows herself, she opens the door of her home. And in doing so, she allows her home to be transformed into a tomb. Now that sounds messed up. And also a womb. Same thing happens with the planting of a seed. That dirt is a tomb. It encases the seed and it starts to break down the seed. The seed is the light, right? Okay. It starts to break down the seed to release the essence, fire, essence. That's what you learn about in this one. Essence. It's what you learn about here in this one too, about etymology. Etymology is the essence, the fire. That is released, and then that same tomb becomes a womb because it produces fruit out of it, or some type of vegetation comes out of it. Same thing with manifestation through coitus or sex. Now, the first word I said, SAK1, sec, cut. That word coincides with Scorpio and with Scorpio, but Scorpio is traditionally associated with Mars. Okay, and Mars, if we look here on the tree of life, Mars is, see that word severity, and you see the symbol, that's for Mars. Severity, Gabor. Okay, so if you look at the root of severity, what do you have? Sever. If you sever something, you cut. Right? You cut. So this is the Martian activity of sex is cutting. It's cutting. It's cutting open the doorway of the house. It is making, what do they call that? Tilling the soil, aerating the soil so that the soil can be more fertile. That's the cutting. Okay. Then sex also coincides with the number 6. 6. Okay. 6 in the astrological chart, the natural houses, the natural planet associated with the 6th house is Mercury. Virgo. One of the key words for Virgo is sacrifice, service, humility. The feminine aspect is humbled through sex because it allows it to be probed. Okay? The 6th represents the conclusion of personal identity, though. So it's not just the feminine aspect humbling itself, the masculine is humbling itself too. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You start at Aries, 1st house. You come around to Virgo, 6th house. That's the last house of personal identity. Because the house that follows Virgo is Libra. Libra is now shifting into the collective. Or not maybe the collective, but something other than yourself. Relations. Ain't that another word for sex? Relations. Okay? But Virgo requires both parties to humble themselves because Aries is on its way to dying. Okay? Virgo is being probed, giving up its vessel. Okay? Why? Because it's an understanding that these things are happening for a relationship. And it just so happens that those two, house 6 and house 7, are Mercury and Venus. Mercury, the 6th house, Venus, the 7th house. An exchange of what is valued, a sharing of what has been harvested. These are two sentences we can put together. An exchange of what is valued, because Venus does not just rule. I'm not trying to get out of that. It's not just associated with the 7th house, it's also associated with the 2nd house, Taurus. So we put Venus in, we're now taking in value, resources, okay, tangibility of Taurus, and the beauty and the balance and the relating of Libra. Those are infused. When we take Mercury, Mercury rules Virgo and Gemini. Fuck it, we're just gonna go with the word rule because I don't feel like trying to clean that up every time I say it. Gemini, communicating, perceiving, teaching, considering the other point of view. Mercury, Virgo, dissemination, perfecting, looking at the details. You take those two, mesh them in with the two Venus components, and you have something powerful for manifestation. It doesn't seem like the focus and the attention to detail would be anything related to sex. The focus to detail of Mercury, the intellect, the focus to attention to detail of Virgo. Damn, my bad. The intellectual jousting of Gemini. That don't have nothing to do with sex. Typically, the way we think. We normally think of it from a Venusian standpoint. Desire. Oh, she's beautiful. Oh, he's handsome. This and that. Oh, she turns me on. Da 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 da. But we leave the intellect aspect out of it. So it appears like it's more of the mercurial aspect that needs to come in, and that is what provides the missing ingredient for manifesting something through something you already do. And it's not, and the thing about this is what this brings to light when we're talking about manifesting through coitus is really that's the last part of the stage, or it's a not the last, but it's a something that's further down the road. Again, we're talking about, and from an astrological standpoint, 6th house, 7th house. Well, it's 5 other houses before then. We're talking about the midpoint of personal development. We're talking about it's not trickery that goes into this stuff. That's why it's not about really evoking no God or no worshiping, not that bullshit. You can toss that out. It is really about an expression of personal development between two entities. That's why you just can't, to me, this is not something just as you meet somebody at Walmart and you be like, look, you fine, we're gonna manifest something. To me, I don't think that. I think it's all agricultural. The 6th house of Virgo is harvest. Okay. Libra is balancing the scale. So it's like, okay, it is Okay, if I sell this, then I got to get this amount back. You understand? But there had to have been a planting of the seed way back, and there had to be the cultivation of the seed to have a harvest. Same thing with this. So to me, I think you got to look at just to point out some things. First house, identity development. Do we both have an identity? Do we have a healthy expression of our identity? Okay, have we developed our identity so that it has not overtaken us? Okay, this is we're saying us from these two individuals, this man and this woman. Okay, two, value assessment. Second house, value assessment. Do I see, Taurus, do I see value in myself? And do I see value in you? Third house, Gemini. Depth of perception. Am I able to look at things from your perspective, and are you able to look at things from mine? And this is just a word to the wise for young men, because I know old heads like us, if we ain't learned this by now, you through dealing. But women in general are more emotional beings. Women probably have a more mercurial approach to sex than men, because mercurial as in their minds are very much involved. Men maybe have a more Venusian because it's pure, sometimes it's just pure desire. She got a fat ass. You know what I'm saying? Woman may be more of, I love the way he makes me feel when I'm around him, the way he talks or the way he listens. You know, it's more of a mental stimulation that feeds her Venusian, you know. And now I'm bringing this up because I said depth of perception. A woman can get turned off if you if she can't talk to you. She, and I'm speaking in generalities here. So, you know, there's always exceptions. But she is more likely to stay put if she's being fed. And I'm not just talking about intellectually, but fed here as it ties into her emotions, you know, as it ties into need for attention. And when that shit is abandoned for after a certain period of time, then that becomes an opening, you know, and she can shift to, you know, she's gonna start considering other sources, you know. So just a little word for the young brothers. Depth of perception. And for women, taking the time to consider what is the plight of that man, especially in a world where manhood is being attacked every day in the most subtle and in the most abrupt manners. Okay, but I'm not going to labor on that. Four, emotional nourishment. Fourth house, Cancer. Emotional nourishment. I just really kind of talked on that. You know, why is why why you got all these different hormone centers all over? I don't know about your city, but I know here the hormone centers are popping up everywhere. You know, one thing about Western society is it's all about reactionism, not about getting to the core of things. You know, all these hormone centers, hormone, and you know, they got things up, got a billboard on 35 in Dallas, they got a billboard up about, erectile dysfunction and this and that. One thing that's we always talk about women with emotions, but what about men? Is there an emotional deficiency that can contribute to erectile dysfunction in men? Now, put aside dietary things and not exercising, and because that's very important, because the vital body, the blood, is Martian, and Martian energy needs it. Like I said earlier, it's associated with urge. It must go. So, a man not exercising and being sedentary is directly related to erectile dysfunction, or not having a very forceful erection because there's not enough blood. And if you look at the wheel of the zodiac, it's showing you how the blood gets there, and part of it also is emotional nourishment. Because the blood is Aries, right? First house, Mars, and it's traveling over to where it will be harvested. Virgo, and balanced, Libra, beautified. So there needs to be vigorous activity on an individual level. Same thing for women, right? Because woman needs blood to get her going, the man, he needs blood. But we also see there's this psychological / emotional component, nourishment. Because I don't have no data to back this up, but I know I can find it. I got a million books here on heart. This is this old hat, so I do have the data I can back this up and prove it. But I ain't going I just know it, that part of the erectile dysfunction is that men subconsciously and consciously get the beat down in this culture. The beat down, and especially black men. The beat down. And that's why 2020 jumped off with a man named George getting choked. It was a ritual about the phallus. I would like to see statistics on erectile dysfunction in black men post 2020 versus before 2020. His name, George. In the middle of George is Orge. Orge is also urge. Urge Floyd, flow, urge flow. The urge flow was choked, cut off. The neck is symbolic of the phallus. It was cut off. It was a sexual ritual. It was the equivalent of hanging a man and cutting his phallus off. That's what the hanging is, a sexual ritual. Five, security and personal expression. Fifth house is associated with Leo, the sun. What is inside must shine on the outside. That's the seed. That's the sin. That's the vehicle. But it has had to have been cultivated up to this point. Leo is, I'm doing me. I don't give a damn what y'all think. I'm doing it. That's Leo. The sun don't ask to shine, it shines, right? But Leo then is coming up to buttressing the sixth house, and the sixth house is now is game time. Because all that I just want to shine has to be cultivated so that it can be harvested. That sun has to come to the mother. And ain't it funny that the bright sun and sun is smacked in between these two feminine principles? There's the moon in house 4. There's Virgo, the virgin, in house 6. Cultivating and shaping the sun, because that's the seed that needs to be extracted. What else did I want to say? The word share, which is, I think, is a very mercurial and Venusian word, because share. Because first of all, Mercury and Venus are shared. Their energies are shared in nature. They are shared in two different houses. But the word share comes back to sec, and it's a member of that sec family, but it's sec with Roman numeral 9, and it means divide and still cut. So again, we keep coming back to that same theme, divide, cut. The word harvest means cutting and plucking time. Ding, 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 ding. What is sex? Harvest and plucking time. Harvest is Virgo, 6th house, Mercury. This act is very intellectual, as well as being um um as well as being a vehicle of desire. It's very intellectual. Um Now, this is what I want to conclude with. Right now, the reason I wanted to go ahead and do this is because right now, these planets that we've been talking about, primarily Venus and Mercury, are in the sign of Gemini. On the 23rd, I think. I think the 23rd, or was it the 26th? When Mercury turns retrograde. It's coming up. Mercury. If anybody knows, put it in the chat. Mercury stations retrograde. Let's see. It's coming up. I know I'm looking right at it, and I can't see it. Mercury stations retrograde. There it goes. 29th. Saturday the 29th is supposed to station retrograde. Okay. But it will stay in the sign of Gemini as it retrogrades. Okay. On the 2nd of June, I think, Venus will ingress Cancer. 2nd of June. So this is what I'm thinking. You have these two planets together in the same sign, and it's not like it's some great phenomenon. Venus only travels 48 degrees away from it stays within 48 degrees of the sun. Mercury always stays within 28 degrees of the sun. Okay, so those two are always kind of close to each other. But right now, they are together in the sign of Gemini. If you're having some type of rift with your mate, allow some time to pass. Not a whole lot of time, but enough for you to cool down and consider the other perspective. Okay? And talk, communicate. Gemini, communicate. And especially right now, communicate. All right? And you know the best type of sex is makeup sex. But instead of just allowing your primal animalistic urges to come through, sit down and talk about, hey, maybe we can focus on an idea. Maybe we can focus on a reality. Maybe we can focus on, if we really get funky with it, a single word that we infuse our intent, our will, our desires, our motives. Everything gets infused into this word, this single word. It becomes this compacted, powerful something. And we focus on that before we have relations. We don't have nothing to worry about, because you know why? People have sex all the time, and the greatest thing to worry about is what type of child you might create. How many people randomly have sex and a child comes out of it? That means there's no consideration of the energies being commingled to produce this child. Nothing. No knowledge of each other, no knowledge of self, nothing. To me, that's the most dangerous. It's even more dangerous than contracting a disease. To create a child and just be kind of a what they call it, roll of the dice, or on a roulette wheel. Let's see what number gonna drop. That's dangerous. This is not dangerous. This is a lot safer. Again, I don't do the whole I'm gonna evoke this and that. No. I'm working with me, working with us, right? So if you're interested, again, I have all these things support what we're talking about. These things here. These handouts support what we're talking about, because this is going to tell you the power of words. You're going to read quotes from the lady I'm reading from, Dion Fortune. You're going to see quotes on here from Godfrey Higgins, Idris Shah, Gerald Massey, who I'm just now noticing his name is cut off, but that's Gerald Massey, William G. Gray. Just see what these people are saying about etymology. This is going to explain to you the esoteric exploration of fire. Because what did we say? Fifth house, Leo, Sun. This is ultimately what is being. This is the currency. It's fire. It is fire that's being moved with sexual relations. This is 5. 5 is a number that is also associated with fire, because 5 is change. Okay. This goes into the etymology of astrological symbols. You always read the books about, well, what are this is that and that and this, but what does the word actually mean? What does the word earth mean? Did you know that the word earth literally means art? And that the first house in astrology is we know is Aries, but Aries wants to do. Aries desires to work, and work means do, right? And that is what that word coincides with urge. An urge to make something, work, do, urge to make something, earth. That's why Aries emerges first. That's why, the ego is not just something to be discarded, because Aries wants to know who it is, because it wants to get on with getting the work done. It wants to get on with getting the work done, because you come to earth to create. So little things like that in here. Then here's breakdown the tree of life. Different from this is literal breakdown of the tree of life. What do the leaves represent? What is the trunk? What is the root? What's the soil? What are the birds? You know, what's the etymology of the word tree? You know, what's the Ankh and the Celtic cross? What do they have in common? The hammer of Thor, the swastika. So these are all things, all these things. Sex is not just an activity. You are transmitting your consciousness. And any work that you do that goes into building yourself and your partner does to build his or herself is being transmuted and transmitted when you all engage. And if you put your minds together and put your mind on something, you take all that power from both of you and you literally create something. Now that does not mean that it just don't, it does, that's all you got to do. But you at least create the image, the reality of it, but it still has to be cultivated. This is directly related to our conversation today. Scribe it, say it, sex it, the ultimate guide to conscious manifestation, okay? And this thing is not something that you got, it's like you got to follow it step by step and oh no, that's not how these things are to trigger synapses to fire in your brain. For you to think of your own imaginatory, if that's a word, imaginative. Is that better? Your own, use your imagination. Let's just be careful. You keep it simple. It's a stimulus. You can get these separate. This is just $11, $11.11. These are just $5.99 a piece on the website, or you can get them all as part of a bundle. What's up, Straight Panther? And I didn't think Tracy P. What's happening? Terrence Jones, what's happening? Who else did I miss? Primordial Wisdom, what's happening? Wise Feminine, what's happening? And anybody else who out there just watching. Oh, Primordial Wisdom says, food for thought, actual facts to snack on. First time viewer, the message resonates deeply. Thank you. Oh, thank you for joining in. Welcome to the channel. Edification, education, elevation. Please drop the link for the book and other materials. Right on, I will. And also, it is in the description. But I'm on. Let me put this. This is for the bundle. Hold on. Give me 1 second. This is the bundle. Oh shit. And hold on. Give me 1 second. Oh, wrong key. There we go. That's where you can get the bundle, and you can find everything on there. Everything through that. You'll see when you go to the home page, the master bundle will pop up. A pop-up for it. It's and then you can go to master students and you can see everything individually. Like I got the manifestation guide is there individually. What else is over there? Under master students, it is the manifestation guide 2020 in the world to come. It's there by itself. You can buy any of these handouts, and like I say, you can get the whole bundle for $74.99. 2 books and 6 other pieces of material, $74.99. So I ain't trying to bust nobody's head, but I appreciate everybody for tuning in. I guess I need to ask anybody got any questions that I can answer. If I can't answer, I'm just gonna say I don't know. Thank you as well, Primordial Wisdom. Okay, I guess I got to start saying this. I can't tell you to hit the like button. I just can't. I can't bring it myself to ask you to like me. But if you do enjoy the content, subscribe. I welcome you to subscribe, and so you can get notice whenever I'm about to do something. Other than that, if nobody has any questions, we're gonna wrap it up. I know that was just a quick little something put together real quick, but with all the things, I want to say this, with all the things going on, one of the most amazing things is there's very little mention about thank you, Primordial Wisdom. It's very little mention about things that you can do for yourself. And so many things are so vilified to where we're adults and maybe we still think of them in a childlike manner, as though it's something to be ostracized for, excommunicated. And so this is an attempt at just tickling your imagination and your intellect just to consider that, hey, maybe there are other things you can do, so that we'll leave it at that. But once again, thank everybody for tuning in. This is Friday, right? Okay, so we'll be back this evening with the Think Music podcast and me and Dap, and I don't even know what we're gonna get into. We're gonna get into something. It'll be something worthwhile, worth your time. So if you want to come back this evening, we invite you to come back for the Think Music podcast. We'll be going in on something deep. And as always, stay down till you get up. And when you get up, stay down. Peace.